Abortion. It's one of the most polarizing issues in modern society, sparking heated debates not just in political arenas, but in families, churches, and communities. The debate often feels like a tug-of-war between the sanctity of life and individual rights, between faith and reason, between love and judgment. It's a matter that cuts across every level of society, affecting women, men, communities, and entire nations. But what about Christians? Where do they stand on abortion? Is there a unified voice, or is it a complex, multifaceted issue that divides them just like it does the rest of the world? For centuries, Christianity has engaged in one of the most profound and ongoing debates about the beginning of life, the value of human existence, and the role of personal choice. From conservative Catholicism to liberal Protestantism, each Christian denomination seems to wrestle with abortion in its own way, interpreting scripture, tradition, and theology through a different lens. Yet at the heart of the debate lies the question, how should Christians respond to abortion, especially when the circumstances are anything but simple? Imagine a woman, perhaps a young girl, who finds herself pregnant after being raped. The emotional and physical trauma is unimaginable. For her, abortion might seem like the only way to move forward. But what if her family, her church, her entire community believes that abortion is always wrong, no matter the situation? In this moment, the conflict between her personal need for healing and the values she has been taught becomes a battlefield. Or consider the woman who, after years of struggling with infertility, finally conceives, only to find out that the pregnancy threatens her health and her life. Should she continue with the pregnancy and risk her own life, or should she choose an abortion? How does her faith guide her in such a critical moment? These are just two scenarios among the thousands of real-life situations that make the issue of abortion so incredibly complicated. It's a topic that intersects with morality, ethics, and personal choice, each of which is heavily influenced by faith, culture, and even politics. But for many Christians, the fundamental question remains, what does God think about abortion, and how should his followers respond to it? The Christian perspective on life. To understand Christianity's stance on abortion, we must first understand how Christianity views life itself. Christianity teaches that life is sacred, that every person, from conception to death, is created in the image of God. This belief is foundational, serving as the basis for the pro-life argument that abortion is wrong. The Bible, for instance, speaks of God's role in creating life, with verses like Psalm 139 verses 13 to 16, which speaks of God knitting a person together in the womb, and Jeremiah 1 verse 5, where God says, "Before I formed you in the womb I knew you." Many Christians interpret these verses to mean that human life begins at conception and that every life is valuable from that very moment. The Bible is also filled with teachings on the sanctity of life, texts that suggest that to take a life, even the life of an unborn child, is a grave sin. The sixth commandment, "Thou shalt not kill," is often cited by Christians to argue against abortion. This commandment, while generally understood to prohibit the taking of human life, is applied to the unborn in particular, as many Christians believe that life, according to God, begins at conception. The central tenet for those who oppose abortion is the belief that only God has the authority to end a life. Abortion, for them, is seen as an act of taking the divine authority into human hands. It's an act that usurps God's will, with the potential to disrupt his divine plan for that life. Yet, despite this strong theological foundation, Christians across the globe hold differing views on abortion, and the interpretation of Scripture is not always uniform. To fully understand why this issue is so deeply divided, let's explore the nuanced positions that various Christian traditions take on abortion. Catholicism and abortion, a firm pro-life stance. The Roman Catholic Church is one of the most prominent voices in the Christian world when it comes to the pro-life position. The Catholic Church teaches that life begins at the moment of conception, and as such, abortion is considered morally wrong under any circumstances, except when the life of the mother is directly threatened. This doctrine is rooted in the Church's teachings on natural law, which emphasize that human life is a gift from God and that only God has the authority to determine when life ends. The Catholic Church's stance on abortion has been clear and unyielding for centuries. In 1869, Pope Pius IX declared that abortion was wrong even in the early stages of pregnancy, and in the 20th century, the Church issued several encyclicals reinforcing this view. In 1995, Pope John Paul II reaffirmed the Church's pro-life position in his encyclical Evangelium Vitae, the Gospel of Life, which condemned abortion and euthanasia as intrinsically evil acts. The Church teaches that abortion is a violation of the fifth commandment, which prohibits killing, and that it is a grave sin. For Catholics, abortion is not only morally wrong, but it is also considered a serious offense against the natural law and against God's plan for human life. However, the Catholic Church recognizes that there may be situations in which an abortion might be necessary to save the life of the mother. In these cases, the principle of the double effect is applied, where a procedure that might unintentionally result in the death of the child could be morally acceptable if the primary intention is to save the mother's life. The Catholic Church also stresses that the decision to have an abortion must be made with great care, prayer, and counsel, as it is a matter of deep moral significance. While the Church condemns abortion, it also offers support to women facing unplanned pregnancies, providing counseling and resources to help them make decisions that align with their faith and values. Protestantism, a diverse spectrum of beliefs. Unlike Catholicism, which has a centralized authority and a clear, uniform stance on abortion, Protestantism is far more diverse. Protestant denominations range from highly conservative to more liberal perspectives, with each group interpreting Scripture and Christian ethics in ways that influence their views on abortion. Conservative evangelical Protestants tend to adopt a pro-life stance similar to that of the Catholic Church, believing that life begins at conception and that abortion is morally wrong. Evangelicals emphasize personal responsibility, the sanctity of life, and the belief that abortion is an act that violates God's plan. Many evangelical leaders and organizations, such as Focus on the Family and the Southern Baptist Convention, advocate for the complete abolition of abortion and oppose exceptions for cases like rape or incest. However, some Protestant denominations, particularly more liberal ones, like the United Church of Christ and the Episcopal Church, take a more nuanced approach to abortion. These groups recognize the sanctity of life but also emphasize the importance of individual conscience and the complex realities that women face in difficult situations. For these Christians, abortion may be seen as morally acceptable in cases of rape, incest, or when the health or well-being of the mother is at risk. These more progressive denominations also stress the need for compassionate care and support for women who find themselves in these situations, offering counseling and assistance in making difficult decisions. One significant issue that divides Protestants on abortion is the question of personhood. While evangelicals and conservative Protestants maintain that personhood begins at conception, many liberal Protestants argue that personhood is a matter of theological interpretation and may not necessarily begin at the moment of conception. This distinction plays a significant role in shaping the different views on abortion within Protestantism, as it allows for greater flexibility in how Christians approach abortion in various circumstances. Abortion and the Christian response to rape and incest. One of the most emotionally charged aspects of the abortion debate within Christianity is the question of how to respond to cases of rape and incest. For many Christians, these situations create a moral dilemma. Should a woman be forced to carry a pregnancy to term if it was the result of a violent act? Does the trauma and suffering caused by rape justify the decision to terminate the pregnancy? For Catholics, the Church's teachings on abortion remain clear: abortion is not permitted, even in cases of rape or incest. However, the Church emphasizes that the focus should be on providing care, counseling, and support to the victim, helping her to heal physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Catholic teachings suggest that the victim should not be blamed for the pregnancy, and that she should be given the resources to make the best decision for her well-being. In contrast, many liberal Protestant denominations allow for abortion in cases of rape or incest, recognizing the tremendous trauma that a woman faces in these circumstances. They argue that the emotional and psychological impact of carrying a child conceived through rape can be devastating, and that a woman should have the right to make the decision that is best for her health and well-being. The role of compassion in Christian thought. Regardless of their stance on abortion, many Christians agree that the response to abortion should be grounded in compassion and love. Christianity teaches that every person, including women facing unplanned pregnancies, deserves dignity, respect, and support. For many Christians, the answer to the abortion debate is not simply a matter of moral or legal judgment but also a matter of offering care and support to women in need. Churches across the world offer counseling, adoption services, financial aid, and other resources to women facing unwanted pregnancies. Many Christian organizations also advocate for comprehensive sex education, better access to healthcare, and support for women in crisis situations. The goal, for many Christians, is not only to oppose abortion but also to ensure that women have the resources and support they need to make informed decisions and to lead healthy, fulfilling lives. The future of abortion in Christian thought? As society continues to evolve, so too does the Christian perspective on abortion. There is a growing recognition within many Christian communities that the abortion debate is not as simple as black and white, and that the complexities of real-life situations require more compassionate, nuanced approaches. While the core belief in the sanctity of life remains central to most Christian teachings, more voices are emerging within the faith that advocate for a more empathetic response to women facing challenging circumstances. In recent years, a new movement has begun to take shape within Christian circles, a movement that seeks to balance the pro-life stance with a strong emphasis on supporting women. This shift is driven by a recognition that while the preservation of life is important, the well-being of the mother, her emotional and mental health, and her ability to make informed decisions must also be prioritized. These Christians argue that it is not enough to simply oppose abortion, rather, the Church must actively engage in efforts to reduce the need for abortion in the first place. This perspective advocates for improved access to family planning, sex education, healthcare, and social support services for women, especially those in disadvantaged communities. It recognizes that many women who seek abortions do so because they feel they have no other option. The idea is that by providing these women with the necessary tools to make empowered choices, the Church can help reduce the circumstances that lead to unwanted pregnancies and, by extension, abortions. Furthermore, there is growing recognition that the Church must address the underlying social and economic issues that contribute to unwanted pregnancies. Poverty, lack of education, lack of access to contraception, and social stigma often play significant roles in a woman's decision to terminate a pregnancy. For many Christians, it is no longer enough to condemn abortion without also addressing the systemic issues that make abortion seem like the only viable option. Christian leaders who support this more holistic approach to abortion argue that the Church should work to create a culture of life, one in which women feel supported in their decisions and are given the resources they need to thrive. This culture would involve fostering environments where women can seek help without fear of judgment or condemnation, and where their decisions are respected, regardless of whether they choose to carry a pregnancy to term or seek an abortion. The role of prayer and reflection. In addition to the practical support that churches and Christian communities can offer, there is also the deeply spiritual dimension of the abortion debate. For many Christians, the issue of abortion is not simply a political or moral one, it is a matter of faith and personal conviction. As such, prayer and reflection play a crucial role in how individuals approach the issue. For Christians who are personally grappling with the decision of whether to have an abortion, prayer and seeking God's guidance are often seen as essential steps. Many Christians believe that through prayer, they can find peace, clarity, and strength to make the right decision. Some may turn to their pastors, spiritual leaders, or fellow believers for support and counsel, seeking God's will for their lives and their pregnancies. The Church can also play a role in helping individuals navigate the moral complexities of abortion through pastoral care and counseling. By providing a safe, non-judgmental space for women to discuss their struggles and fears, the Church can help them process their emotions and make decisions based on their faith and personal conscience. This approach emphasizes the importance of supporting women spiritually as they make one of the most difficult decisions of their lives. The intersection of politics and faith. As the debate over abortion continues to evolve, it is inevitable that the issue has become deeply entangled with politics. In many countries, including the United States, abortion laws are a highly contentious topic, with politicians and religious leaders often weighing in on the issue. For many Christians, this intersection of politics and faith presents a challenge, especially when the laws of the land do not align with their personal beliefs about the sanctity of life. In countries where abortion is legal, some Christians believe that the Church should focus on advocating for the protection of the unborn through peaceful means, such as prayer, protests, and educational campaigns. Others, however, argue that the Church should work to influence policy through legislative action, seeking to change laws that allow for abortion. Still, others contend that the Church's role is not to engage directly in political debates but rather to focus on supporting women and families, regardless of the legal status of abortion. This divergence of opinion among Christians highlights the broader tension between religious values and the role of government in regulating personal decisions. While some Christians view abortion as a moral issue that should be shaped by religious teachings, others argue that the state should not impose religious beliefs on individuals and that women should have the freedom to make their own choices about their bodies. The growing role of women in the abortion debate. In recent years, one of the most significant shifts in the abortion debate has been the growing involvement of women, both within the church and in broader society. For many years, the debate was largely dominated by male leaders, theologians, and politicians. However, as more women have entered positions of leadership within the church and in the public sphere, their voices are beginning to reshape the conversation around abortion. Women bring unique perspectives to the issue, particularly because they are the ones who are directly impacted by unplanned pregnancies and the decision to have an abortion. Many Christian women, particularly those who have faced abortion or unplanned pregnancies themselves, are speaking out about their experiences and advocating for a more compassionate and understanding approach to the issue. They argue that while the sanctity of life is important, the church must also acknowledge the difficult and often painful circumstances that women face when making decisions about their pregnancies. These women often call for the church to be more supportive of women who find themselves in crisis situations, offering counseling, resources, and practical help. They also advocate for a more inclusive approach that takes into account the full range of experiences and emotions that women go through when faced with an unplanned pregnancy. By doing so, they hope to create a church that is not only pro-life but also pro-woman, ensuring that women's voices are heard and respected in the conversation. The role of forgiveness and healing. For those who have already had an abortion, the issue of forgiveness and healing is a critical aspect of the Christian response to abortion. Many Christians believe that abortion is a grave sin, and as such, women who have had abortions may feel a deep sense of guilt, shame, and spiritual anguish. The church's role, in this case, is to offer a path to healing and forgiveness. Christian teachings emphasize the power of forgiveness through Jesus Christ, and many churches offer support groups, counseling services, and spiritual guidance to help women find peace and reconciliation. For those who have struggled with the decision to abort, the church's message of grace and redemption can be a powerful tool for healing. By offering women a place to grieve, to process their emotions, and to seek spiritual healing, the church can help restore their sense of dignity and worth. Many women who have experienced abortion describe the church as a place where they can find forgiveness, hope, and a renewed sense of purpose in life. This approach emphasizes that no one is beyond redemption and that God's love and grace are available to all, regardless of their past decisions. Looking forward, a more compassionate Christian response. As society continues to evolve, so too will the Christian response to abortion. While the core values of life and the sanctity of the unborn child will likely remain central to Christian teachings, the way that the church engages with this issue is likely to become more nuanced and compassionate. Rather than focusing solely on condemning abortion, the church can play a vital role in supporting women, families, and communities in a way that reflects the love and grace of Christ. This more holistic approach requires a shift in focus, away from judgment and condemnation and toward care, compassion, and support. It calls for a church that is not just pro-life but also pro-woman, one that listens to the stories and experiences of women facing unplanned pregnancies and offers real help. It involves providing education, healthcare, and resources that empower women to make informed decisions, and advocating for a culture that values both the life of the unborn and the dignity of the mother. Ultimately, the Christian response to abortion must be guided by the example of Jesus Christ, who showed compassion to the most marginalized and hurting members of society. By following his example, the church can lead the way in creating a more just, loving, and compassionate world where every life, both unborn and born, is valued and protected.